Freedom of speech. Why we must protect this value now more than ever. A reading from an article that I just wrote. In light of recent repugnant comments made by both Donald Trump and the boxer Manny Pacquiao, the censoring chorus is once again being sung. In particular, a UK petition calling for the banning of Donald Trump to the UK has been written and will now be discussed in Parliament. This is not the first time free speech has been a contentious issue in the UK. Kate Hopkins makes frequent headlines for expressing her ultra-conservative views, and there have been many, albeit unsuccessful, attempts to have her prosecuted. Here is why we need to defend free speech, even when people express their abhorrent views, not attack it. Censorship only prevents the expression of these views. It will never prevent these thoughts from existing. Ironically, making unpleasant comments illegal allows perpetrators of these comments to feel like victims of state oppression, and if the ideas are legally sanctioned, they'd be correct. And with perceived victimhood in their eyes comes a twisted form of vindication that their views must be a truth that is too dangerous for them to hear. The ironic, paradoxical legitimization by censorship allows these ideas to propagate faster in private circles than they ever would have in public circles, because rather than people bashing an idea on its merit, they can be fooled into bashing an idea based on how it is censored by the state. It is worth also drawing an analogy to the Streisand effect, which basically boils down to forbidden fruit tastes sweeter. Censorship of ideas provokes curiosity and can in some cases result in an exposure that never would have happened if the idea would have been allowed to wallow in its own irrelevance. There is no such thing as bad publicity is an adage that holds true to ideas, more so than any other entity. So we must ask ourselves, what is a more effective way of challenging views that we consider repulsive? Do we let them fester in the hearts and minds of bigots who feel ever more legitimized in their world of perceived victimhood? Or do we allow stupidity to exist, if only so that it may be challenged strongly in the free marketplace of ideas? A quotation attributed to Thunderfoot. In reality, by censoring unpopular views, we must also accept that it means that viewpoints are not directly challenged either. An argument cannot be torn down with the eloquence of a watertight rebuttal if it is not allowed to exist, because a rebuttal expressed on its own is not a rebuttal at all, but a monologue. And monologues will always look one-sided to those that strongly disagree. Why not allow the other idea to be expressed and demonstrate the superiority of the good argument for all those to see, including fence-sitters and those holding opposing views? That way you might actually convert people with these unpopular views. There is also an economic argument behind aggressive anti-free speech legislation. The budget of the state is not unlimited, and revenue comes from the taxes of wealth creators and workers. In wasting public resources on trivial matters of unpleasant views, we are wasting taxpayers' money. Therefore, in order to practically achieve a society with more intrusive free speech laws, we either have to raise taxes or divert resources from elsewhere. Keep in mind, tax law is unlikely to change because of a minor amendment to free speech legislation, and that those political wheels tend to turn more slowly anyway. So practically, more aggressive free speech law means more police and legal resources diverted from elsewhere, and that potentially means we could see an increase in non-trivial crime. We must always remember that there is no such thing as a free lunch. More resource allocation in one place inevitably comes at the expense of others. Does that mean free speech should be limit-free? No. Clearly we need laws to protect the enticement of criminal activity, especially violence. Thinly veiled threats on individuals and collections of individuals, of course, should be banned, as should malicious destruction of an individual's reputation. How do we draw a distinction? I admit it isn't always easy. However, one must recognise the distinction between someone encouraging acts of violence on women, for example, and merely expressing sexist viewpoints. The former needs to result in prosecution, not because a non-popular idea is being expressed, but because it is being expressed in a way that may result in harm to individuals or groups of individuals. Think of it as the difference between a peaceful protest and a protest which encourages violence on political groups. And remember, even peaceful protests can express very unpleasant ideas, such as those of the Westboro Baptist Church. I would also like to say that people far too often attack those that defend free speech by saying that they condone such distasteful ideas. This could not be further from the truth. Part of why I want free speech is that I can condemn bad ideas more efficiently than I would ever would be able to were the idea not be allowed to be expressed. Think of the most awe-inspiring moments in a debate where a rebuttal is so strong and so well expressed that the opponent is left floundering in their own ineptitude, and that of their argument. Also, it's worth noting that in a debate there's civility, and lack of enticement of crime is also a factor. Tell me glimpsing the genius behind a strong argument is ever done so well in a monologue. Incidentally, whenever a call of censorship is made, you are turning an argument on that issue into one of the limits of free speech. The intellectual resources of mankind are just as finite as the economic ones. If one has to spend time defending free speech, then that is less time being spent attacking bad arguments. Case in point this. We need to understand that freedom of speech really means freedom of unpopular speech. Popular speech is not at risk of being censored by the state. Obviously that doesn't mean it should be. That is why, as individuals, we should be most vocal about free speech of those we disagree with most strongly. Thank you.